Chef Abioye, also known as TJ Crawford. I have the pleasure of welcoming you on behalf of the Chicago Juneteenth Planning Coalition in the city of Chicago and the various offices that have been part of planning this Juneteenth flag raising celebration to the official Juneteenth flag raising celebration for the city of Chicago. Can we give it up for ourselves? I want to do a quick little call and response if you all don't mind doing this with me. So when I say faith, can you say freedom, all right? Faith, freedom. Faith, freedom. When I say freedom, you say family. Freedom, family. Freedom. Family. What you see today is the result of collaborative planning between city government officials and dedicated staffers in concert with community leaders, residents, and advocates who are committed to celebrating Black people and the culture that we've created, commemorating that through ritual and tradition, and collaborating to make new contributions to the culture. I want to shout out some of the organizations: South Shore Works, the Chicago Black Belts. We got the 1865 Fest. A number of people who are here who have been committed long-term to not only celebrating Juneteenth, but using it as a way to model a belief in ourselves, a belief to control our own environment, a belief to speak authentically to who we are. There are three words that I hope that you carry with you as you leave today. One is culture. Culture being the unique, authentic expression of the values and principles self-determined by a particular community. Wellness, overall health and well-being, holistic, everything within us and around us that leads to our long-term health and us being our best selves. And then lastly, resilience. Juneteenth is about the resilience of a people that through all of the struggles, through all of the attacks, through all of the chains, through every single thing that was intended to destroy us, we maintained, we survived, and today we are on the road to thrive. So as we hear from the mayor and the other speakers today, please keep those three things in mind: culture, wellness, and the resilience that is necessary to overcome any obstacle. One more time, when I say faith, you say freedom. Faith, 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 faith. When I say freedom, you say family. Freedom, 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 freedom. Let's get started. Thank you.
Right. Let us bow our heads in prayer at this moment. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, may the Spirit, may your Spirit, the creator of this cosmos, may you rest here upon us. May the wisdom of our ancestors who resisted with tenacious creativity the virus that we could call COVID-19. May we hold the memory of named and unnamed people who endured a human-created tragedy. They endured it with esteem and compassion and integrity. May we as a city and country never again bow to antebellum myths and Confederate propaganda. On this day, may we celebrate those whose names we do not know, and may we celebrate the names that we do know. We thank you, O God, for the power. We thank you, O God, for the tenacity. We thank you, O God, for the creativity of those who went before us, on whose shoulders we stand. We give you thanks this day, on this Juneteenth, as we raise this flag to celebrate those who fought and died for our freedom. And we offer this prayer in the mighty and wonderful name of Jesus. Amen.
Hello, Chicago. That's just too comfortable. Hello, Chicago. Hello, Chicago.
Brother Wallet, we're going to bring back Brother Minister Reverend Otis Moss to do the libation, while Brother Wallet and the Kingdom Drummers play the background to usher in the spirit. Sir, down the front.
and libation, the water. And we ask that you would say amen and ashe in respect to those who went before us, named and unnamed. If there are those in your family, ancestors in your family, we ask that you will call their names and we will say amen and ashe. So be it, we offer and give thanks unto those who went before us. We pour the libation, call the name, amen and ashe. We pour the libation of those who went before us, those who fought and resisted, for those who have the spirit of resilience and held on to their humanity in the face of inhumanity. We lift up women and men and children whose names we do not know, but were able to forge out a life in a wilderness called North America. We lift up those who created communities in the face of horror, of only considered to be 3/5 of a human being. We lift them up. We lift up midwives and doctors who made the choice in order to serve communities they said they could not serve. And we are thankful that they were able to deliver children across this nation. We lift up every freedom fighter who fought against the inhumanity and the disease of COVID-19. We give thanks unto God and unto the Spirit that rests in us and around us this day on this Juneteenth. Call the name of your ancestor at this time. Amen and ashe.
Thank you, Brother Wale and the Kingdom African Drummers. I would like to now bring up Ms. Lyric Griffin. Can we give them a round of applause? One more round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Otis Moss III and Yoruba Kingdom African drummers for leading us in prayer and through libations. My name is Lyric Griffin, as Theo nicely introduced me, and I have the pleasure of working for the Office of Equity and Racial Justice for the City of Chicago. Today is a significant day, as our speakers will undoubtedly underscore throughout this event. Juneteenth holds importance in our collective history, marking both progress and our ongoing journey towards equity and inclusion. Today is also a significant day for the Office of Equity and Racial Justice in the City of Chicago. Today, we proudly introduce Chicago's newest Chief Equity Officer, Carla Copenhaver. As Chief Equity Officer, Carla will guide the city's strategy to drive equitable processes and outcomes. Our office has had the pleasure of working with Mayor Johnson, several members of the mayor's office, and our community partners to identify Carla as ideal for this role. Carla brings a wealth of experience and an unwavering commitment to equity. She has been described by our Equity Advisory Council as strategic, community-centered, and visionary in her approach to equity. Having had the pleasure of working with Carla myself on several initiatives, I can attest to her deep understanding of the complexities of this work and her dedication to building a more equitable Chicago. And with that, it is with great enthusiasm that I introduce our newest Chief Equity Officer for the City of Chicago, Carla Copenhaver.
My family is from the Congo, and when we address large crowds of family members or elders, we start with this greeting, Mbote. So we already started the call and response. I'm going to say Mbote, and you're going to say Mbote back, okay? Mbote? Okay, here we go. As Lyric just stated, my name is Carla Copenhaver. I'm your new Chief Equity Officer. And I want to welcome you all to the 4th annual Juneteenth flag raising ceremony hosted by our Mayor Johnson, the Chicago Juneteenth Planning Coalition, and the Aldermanic Black Caucus. Today we are joined by government leaders from City Council, the City of Chicago, county, state, and federal government. We are also joined by many of our community leaders, and I want to thank you all for being here with us today. I'd like to also thank my co-hosts and my predecessor, Candace Moore, for their efforts to make Juneteenth an official city holiday and for making it possible for us to celebrate this historic day with the raising of the Juneteenth flag. And I'm very proud to share this stage with you all, and even more prouder to be Chicago's next Chief Equity Officer, leading the Mayor's Office for Equity and Racial Justice. I come to this work, as Lyric already said, I don't have to repeat all of that, but I'm coming from a background of public service and of law. I've worked as an attorney, city employee, consultant, and convener of community. In these various roles, I've seen firsthand the challenges that our city faces. And I have also seen the power of government and community working collectively to build solutions. As Chief Equity Officer, I look forward to reclaiming this moment to see how we can govern together to create a more just and inclusive Chicago. Over the years, I have worked closely with the Office of Equity and Racial Justice, helping to guide city departments in designing their racial equity action plans and serving as a facilitator for the Together We Heal initiative. This office has been critical to building the systems and tools needed in government to produce the results we all seek across our communities. Most notably, this work has resulted in 27 racial equity action plans from our city departments. These plans set a path forward for how departments will work to improve equitable outcomes in the city of Chicago. The office has also made the work of equity as much about transforming systems as it is about healing our communities, building tools like the Year of Healing Impact Report to help us reckon with our complex past, as well as partnering with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events to invest $6 million in our communities to help community leaders and artists identify solutions to challenges caused by racial, health, and economic inequities. I am so humble and grateful to participate in further advancing equity in Chicago. There's no better time than now to build on the foundation that the Office of Equity and Racial Justice has laid and the vision that Mayor Johnson has set. This day is important to me because it marks my first day as your Chief Equity Officer, but it is also a time where government leaders and community come together to acknowledge Juneteenth. As we reflect on Juneteenth, we celebrate freedom. We celebrate the progress we have made as a nation in the pursuit of equity and justice. And Juneteenth also serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for equity and justice, and the importance of continuing to confront and dismantle systemic racism and inequality in all of its forms. It challenges us to reflect on our shared history and to commit ourselves to creating a future where every person has fair and just access to opportunity and resources that provide everyone the ability to thrive. Even though our journey to this future state still continues, let us take a moment to celebrate our progress to date and reaffirm our commitment to equity and justice for all as a city. Next, I would like to invite David Peterson, Executive Director of the National Pullman Porter Museum and a member of the Juneteenth Planning Coalition, to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Do I have permission from my elders to speak? If I do, say Ashe. My name is David Peterson, again, President, Executive Director of the National A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum. I'm also a proud Kenwood Academy alumni, a proud Florida A&M University alumni, and a proud member of the Far South Chicago Coalition, and a proud member of the Coalition of Black Trade Unions. But before I go on, I want to make a slight acknowledgement. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our mayor for intentionally putting this together and changing the ranks of the city. A lot of people are trying to beat up on him in the media, but I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge his hard work. So thank you, because if you don't look good, we don't look good. I have a lot to say, but a little bit of time to say it, so I've created some talking points, which is very rare for me. But I want to start by talking about our community recommitment, centered around the call to action of Juneteenth. Juneteenth isn't another opportunity for us to just have a barbecue and go outside and kick it. It's a call to action. It's a reminder of how far we've come and how far we need to go. So with that, we want to be focused as we move forward on community engagement and taking back our streets. It's time for us to put the neighbor back in the hood. It's time for us to be intentional about being proactive in our communities. In addition to that, cultural accountability. Cultural accountability to our history, heritage, and culture. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like a black agenda with 10 points. 1, reparations for black descendants of American slavery. 2, health and wellness equity and mental health. 3, criminal justice and police reform. 4, economic development through self-investment with government support. 5, public and community safety. 6, enforcement of educational excellence and development of skills and trades. 7, low-income and affordable housing. 8, international tourism and hospitality, also known as cultural economic development, where we use our history, heritage, and culture as a means of social and economic development in our communities under the broader umbrella of tourism and hospitality. 9, legislation for black contractors and bids. And finally, green economy equity, reparative compensation and inclusion for farmers and distributors of food in the marijuana and hemp industries. Now, this is important because none of these things would be possible without those who came before us. So I want to acknowledge some of the ancestors that came before us that stood out to me this morning. Queen Nzinga, Harriet Tubman, Madam C.J. Walker, Ida B. Wells, Asa Philip Randolph, Milton Webster, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the father of the red, black, and green, Sojourner Truth, and some of the immediate and local freedom fighters that I've had an opportunity to be mentored by who are no longer with us. Joseph Watkins, Kwesi Ronald Harris, Dr. Conrad Worrell, Harold Lucas, and Dr. Joyce Chapman. We need to have intentionality of cultural, community, and economic development. And that's important because without these intentional efforts and moves, nothing will be happening. So as we transition out of these points, I want to honor 5 community members for their contributions. And these honorees are Torrance Gardner, Lucretia Burks, TJ Naomi Davis, and Dr. Lynn Hughes. And I have the pleasure and privilege to have worked with all of these people, to know these people, to learn from these people. And I'm so blessed to be able to stand in their presence. So now we're going to transition into our next speaker, Dr. Lynn Hughes. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring back up Ms. Cope. And she'll present the proclamations for the people that are going to come up that I spoke of. Thank you guys so much. Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you for celebrating our community honorees who are the reason we are able to celebrate Juneteenth in this way today. Next, we will be welcomed by a dance performance by NUV Footwork team, and they will be coming to the stage shortly.
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, nation will rise up, nation will rise up, nation will rise up, nation will, nation will,
south side, east side, north side, outside. Let's give it up for the Move Correctly dance team. Good deal. Moving along, I want to bring up the founder of the Pullman Porter Museum, Dr. Lynn Hughes. Can we give her a round of applause?
Well, first I want to say hats off to those brothers who just left here. Well, I'm told I need to get closer. Is that better? Okay. Well, thank you all for bearing the heat and getting here today. But this is important, so that's why we're all here. My message is short, I think, but I want to talk about cultural policy, and I have to do a roundabout way to getting there because the message today is about community, culture, and economic development. And I have the right or the credentials to talk about cultural economic development because it is a mechanism that really sort of crept in on us. It's under the banner of tourism. And I became aware of cultural economic development in 1995 when I was invited to Washington, D.C. to the National Conference on Tourism, the White House Conference on Tourism. And when I got there were 3,500 attendees. I was one of 17. The 17 were comprised of Hispanics, African American, and there were two, me and another person, and Native American. Before we even got into conversation at that conference, what I realized was the significance of the number of people who were there and how many did not look like me and how many that there were there, we had no clue. I was invited because of the work that was recognized of founding the first Black Labor History Museum in the nation. But more importantly, it bothered me, my spirit would not rest until I started asking questions. Ron Brown, who was the former U.S. Commerce Secretary, sent a delegation to me because I was organizing a picket in the conference to object to the lack of African American participation in that conference. And what he said to me, I will never forget it. He said, what's coming down the pipe is a program that's going to benefit people of color, the indigenous people, Hispanic people, and African Americans. And if you use it correctly, it will benefit Black communities all over this nation. That stuck with me. But what I didn't understand then was that I was stepping into a very painful pioneering space of trying to talk about incorporating and including African Americans in culture. But African American people in general, our history, heritage, and culture is what has been the glue that kept our families together through everything that we have gone through, slavery, the whole 9 yards. And so I felt convicted that if I walked away, I'm afraid of God, just so you know. And I was convicted and thinking, this may be too much. But I hung in there, and I'm still hanging in there. And one of the things that I learned about was cultural policy and how the discretionary implementation of cultural policy is under the broader group of policies that actually govern and dictate cultural economic development. But cultural economic development is a mechanism that I don't know why people don't see it. It's an economic tool. It's a tool that can be used for neighborhood stabilization in urban communities and communities of color in particular. And it's like we have blinders on. You see people all over this country we're talking about tourism. And many times it's about the packaging, marketing of history, heritage, and culture, in particular African American history, heritage, and culture, and selling it back to you. Something's wrong with that picture. I think that past administrations have overlooked it, but I really feel inspired and hopeful that this administration, I think they have the finger on the pulse, and I think they can work toward that, and I'm happy to share my doctoral dissertation that documents it. So I have a couple of credentials that says I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm happy to share that with Mayor Johnson. I'm thrilled to be able to see that just the recognition nationally of Juneteenth is proof of recognition that our history, heritage, and culture means something. And it just doesn't mean something to us. It means something to people all over this nation. Check out the marketing about Juneteenth. We're not in a position to do that marketing, but it's hitting every area. TV, radio, newspapers. And so I'm saying, giving you the backstory in order for you, all who have ears to hear, if you are part of a department, a decision-making body, a politician, a bureaucrat, whatever position you are in, if you can touch the committees and those committees who govern and implement cultural policy, I say do that. Understanding the potential of and the cultural impact of cultural economic development is pivotal right now. People are going into our communities across this country. Developers are they go in and what they do call cultural impact projects. But they impact their pockets. When they leave, there's nothing that they leave for the people who live there. And so I don't get invited often because I say what I think, and people don't like that, but it is true. It is true. And so I'm hoping that Mayor Johnson doesn't regret allowing me on this stage, but I think he's on to something. That's why they beat him up so bad, but we're praying, we're prayer warriors, and you all know who I'm talking about. And we're praying for him every day because we know that they're on the attack for him because he sees the right thing and he wants to do the right thing. And the enemy doesn't want you to do the right thing. And so I think that I think I made my point there, but I think as the elders, we have an obligation to prepare the next generation for the cultural structure and a clear roadmap, how to harness, reclaim, and benefit from the monetary structure that is in place of the packaging, marketing, and selling of our history, heritage, and culture. We need to be able to do that. And so as one of the elders, I'm in that group, and I want you, please, to take note of that. And I can provide you, those of you who are interested, my doctoral dissertation gives clear roadmap and points that you can reference to let you know I didn't just make it up. So thank you, and happy Juneteenth.
Let's give it up for Dr. Lynn Hughes one more time. To keep our community remarks going, of course, our keynote, the mayor has some very important things to share. But I want to bring up Brother Benny Lee from the National Alliance to empower the formerly incarcerated. Give it up for Brother Benny Lee.
Good morning, Chicago. Habarigani. As a Kiswahili term means, what's the word for the day? I'm honored to be asked here to be on this platform this morning, representing our city, our esteemed mayor here, who happened to be my neighbor because I'm from the Austin community. But this whole thing is about, in Abraham Lincoln in 1862, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation to free slaves. It didn't pass Congress until 1865, and it gave birth to the 13th Amendment that suggests no person of U.S. citizenship should be subject to slavery or indentured servitude unless otherwise convicted of a crime. And with that, regulation board can set criteria to exclude convicted felons from becoming licensed real estate brokers. Here in Illinois, there's close to 180 licenses that I, as a convicted felon, can't really apply for. But see, after they passed the 13th Amendment, it was Frederick Douglass that challenged them and said, y'all freed us, but you don't consider us citizens. And that forced them to pass the 14th Amendment that said all citizens should have equal protection of the law and due process of the law. Now we look at cases like Plessy versus Ferguson. There was a black man discriminated against and took his case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Then that's when they ruled separate but equal. But then came one of our giants, Thurgood Marshall, that turned that around, Brown versus the Board of Education. See, these are the kind of things we need in our schools. So yeah, we can celebrate Juneteenth. Because see, you got a lot of black people come down here and celebrate St. Patrick's Day, which is an Irish holiday to honor who they are. Columbus Day, which is an Italian holiday to celebrate who they are. Our young people need to know what is Juneteenth. But it's beyond just celebrating and barbecue. You know, I happen to be a professor at Northeastern Illinois University. And they invited me to teach a class on introductory in the history of sociology. And they gave me this curriculum to follow. And part of it was, what were the main 5 sociologists, founding fathers? Every one of them quoted W.E.B. Du Bois in his study of the Philadelphia study. But they didn't recognize him as one of the founding fathers of sociology. Right? So what I did, practicing what I know, I inserted him in the curriculum. So we got to be bold like that. You know, I was teaching a class, and one young brother in the class had never heard of Harold Washington. I mean, what are people being taught? You know, it's an African proverb to say the rise of a nation begins in the home of its people. See? And what I see in our communities, there's no dinner tables in our homes. Families not coming together. It's about educating our young people. You know, they need to know who was Ida B. Wells, who led a campaign to stop the lynching of black people. They need to know Sojourner Truth and led a campaign to end slavery. They need to know about Malcolm X. He wasn't about just hating white folks. He was about the development of the people. But I'm going to say this and land the plane. They need to know about our formula that Dr. Ram Malana Karinga gave us during the Kwanzaa season. That all of us must strive for the first principle, unity within our family, our community, our race, and our nation. That we must practice Kuchi Shakalil, self-determination. We need to speak up for ourselves, do for ourselves, and provide for ourselves. You know, Ujima, collective working responsibility. We need to make our brothers and sisters' problem our problem, and together we solve them together. Ujamaa, we must practice cooperative economics, right? We must practice Kuumba to make our communities more beautiful and beneficial, in which we inherit them. We must practice Imani, faith, that we must have more faith in our leaders, our teachers, and our educators. And then we got to practice Imani, meaning, Nia, meaning purpose. We must have a purpose in all we do. So I say, we just don't come and just celebrate Juneteenth Day by clapping our hands and come with our African garb on, and when we leave it, we take it off and put on all these European clothes, you know, Armani, Prada, and all that stuff. That's called imperialism, right? That's imperialism. We build other people's up, but we don't build ourselves up. So we need to go home, go in our basements, pull those old albums out with your grandmama and your great-grandmama's pictures, blow them up, put them in the living room, all over the house, so them little kids one day gonna ask you, who is that? And you can tell them that's your great-great-granddad. That's your great-grandfather. See, education begins at home. We can't rely on others like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say. We got to be out of our mind. If a chicken send their chicks to school taught by a snake, that's insane, right? Okay. I know I'm long-winded, but I want to say again, I'm honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me here. And with that, hotel.
Give it up one more time for Brother Benny. Moving right along, I want to bring up Alderman Stephanie Coleman, giving remarks on behalf of City Council.
Good morning. To our new Chief Equity Officer, you mentioned your family greeting, your Congoan family greeting. Well, my family migrated from Sunflower, Mississippi, and we're Baptist, so we say praise the Lord, everybody. Will the members, Tamara Johnson, my esteemed colleagues in the City Council, will the members of the Black Caucus please stand to be recognized? Past and present, I see our past chair, Rob Sawyer, my chairman, Jason Irvin, Vice Mayor Walter Burnett, Chairman Pat Dow, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, Alderman Desmond Yancey, Alderman David Moore. Is that everyone? And Alderman Ronnie Mosley. Thank you so much to our city administrators and the wonderful civic leaders and residents that have joined us today. Happy Juneteenth. I want to thank Mayor Johnson for his undying love and support in keeping this Juneteenth holiday relevant, inspiring, and most importantly, educational here in the city of Chicago. One of the greatest attributes that we as African Americans have is our continued mission to endure, overcome, and achieve, all of which is so significant to raise this flag. But it's imperative to not only raise the flag, but to acknowledge our ancestors as it relates to how we got here. Juneteenth marks our country's second Independence Day, an acclamation of our ancestor prayers, tears, and drive to bring us to celebrate on today. America is the country it is today because of the hundreds of years of free labor that our ancestors gave unwillingly. Hello, reparations. We will not be ashamed of who we are and what we have overcome. The raising of this flag validates and solidifies our culture, our sense of style and swag, our brilliance, and our perseverance to continue to inspire the masses. The Bible explains that without vision, the people will perish. I am honored, I am grateful, and I am blessed to now introduce the ultimate Juneteenth commander and chief here in the city of Chicago. Won't you stand and welcome our fearless leader, Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Thank you very much. It is still morning by a couple of minutes, so good morning. Please be seated. Thank you, Alderwoman Coleman, for that new title. You know, I love black people would just add another responsibility to your name, won't they? The Commander-in-Chief of Juneteenth. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here today. I want to thank and recognize, of course, the City Council Black Caucus, the Juneteenth Planning Coalition, and of course to all of our community partners as we raise the Juneteenth flag today. Thank you to all of our state reps and state senators, our Cook County commissioners that were here today, and of course our city clerk, the proud West Side daughter. Our city clerk, y'all show her some love. Clerk, could you stand up and be recognized? City treasurer, I'm sorry, city treasurer. Our city treasurer, my bad. Our city treasurer is here. So as Alderwoman Coleman has already expressed, you know, those of us who are descendants of slaves, we recognize this moment as an opportunity to fully express what liberation is really about. And this holiday has become a way to honor not just the end of slavery, but to really commemorate the beginning of a new era of independence, a new era of independence for black people across this country. And of course, during the Great Migration, my family was a part of the thousands of black Southerners who came north to seek refuge in the city of Chicago. And of course, we have historic neighborhoods like Hyde Park, and the Bronzeville community, just to name a few. But we didn't just come here to establish ourselves in neighborhoods. We came as scientists, as artists, as innovators, as leaders, activists, and creators of culture. Creators of true heritage that, of course, we celebrate around the world. And if it weren't for those who made that journey, the black leadership that you see in Chicago and Cook County and throughout this country, you would not see it. And I certainly would not be the 57th mayor of the greatest freaking city in the world if it were not for our ancestors. But like many cities across this country, Chicago still bears the scars of systemic racism and injustices that have been inflicted on our communities. We've seen them in highways that cut through black neighborhoods, and the industries, of course, that flock to these neighborhoods, often contributing to increased pollution and poor health outcomes. We see it in the trauma, of course, that is caused by gun violence. But we also saw it firsthand with the gross disinvestment that was intentional by previous administrations. And so beautiful neighborhoods like mine, the Austin neighborhood, has seen many health disparities, the lack of nutritious food, the lack of employment opportunity, the disinvestment in our communities have been intentional. And of course, that's why it's imperative that it is now the time to deliver good on reparations for people of Chicago, and particularly black people of the city of Chicago. Because even as I stand here today as mayor, the legacy of slavery and the aftermath still echoes today. We saw it when previous administrations sold off public assets. We saw the harm when previous administrations closed black schools and they shut down public housing, when they raided the pensions, these anti-black, anti-business endeavors that have caused tremendous harm and pain. But it's a new day. In fact, we are standing on the shoulders of one of the great leaders of this city, Dorothy Tillman, who laid the foundation and the groundwork to ignite a movement for reparations. It was Dorothy Tillman that introduced me to Dr. Claude Anderson, Black Labor, White Wealth. And it is why my administration is committed to driving reparations home. And we're going to invest $500,000 into the study of restoration and reparations for the city of Chicago so that we can begin to move in the direction of complete liberation. And that's why, with the help and the support of the Black Caucus, we have a brand new Office of Reentry, added $5 million to make sure that the formerly incarcerated find jobs and housing and counseling and the full support that they need. And finally, we recognize the victims of John Burge who were tortured. It's a painful reminder of the unjust incarceration system that we have and the mistreatment of black people in particular through our so-called criminal system. Reparations will be an investment in our neighborhoods and our people. Reparations will unlock the doors for prosperity to fully flow through the neighborhoods that have been disinvested in for decades. And as we grapple with the challenges and the hard-fought victories to get to this point, we must never forget our goal to make sure that reparations become a reality for black residents of this city. We are a powerful people, particularly when we come together. Whether it's through slavery or segregation, systemic racism, the disparities, the mass incarceration, we have stayed in this fight. We have remained resilient. We will not be turned around. We will not allow our people to continue to be subject to the painful reminder of what anti-blackness has done to the people of this city and to this country. We will allow our people to make sure that they can grow and that the harm that has been done against our people for generations, that we can bring that to an end. It's important to remember that reparations will not only serve for the benefit of black people, but the entire neighborhood in which black people exist in. We will create inclusive opportunities so that we all can win. Reparations will ultimately help us build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. We must acknowledge, however, that the institution of chattel slavery and Jim Crow laws and the post-civil rights era policies have not just formed discrimination against black Chicagoans, but they have resulted in generational systemic inequities in education, employment, wealth, housing, health, safety, and so much more. We can't just simply blow past the harm that has been promulgated by generations, on generations, by previous administrations. And we cannot stop our fight for true restoration because there are clearly forces that wish to continue to divide us. These institutions have harmed. The very institutions in which we represent today have harmed black people. And so on behalf of the city of Chicago, I apologize for the historic wrongs committed against black people in Chicago. On behalf of the city of Chicago, we apologize not just on behalf of black folks who have been harmed, but their ancestors who never saw this day. But as today, though, I stand here with leaders and champions of reparations. I stand here with leaders and champions who recognize that whether it's a $1.25 billion bond, or whether it's the fact that we have the blackest administration in the history of Chicago, or whether it's $250 million to fight this housing crisis, or whether it's the fact that we are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars to hire our young people. I stand here today proud to sign an executive order that creates the Reparations Task Force to support the strategy, the implementation, and the engagement of Chicago Black Reparations Agenda. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless the blackest city in the world, the city of Chicago.
Let's give it up one more time. The City Council. Can we give it up one more time for the mayor and the City Council? Now if you all don't mind, we can turn to the east.